I've seen a lot of lists in my time. What bosses are the hardest, what bosses are the best, what bosses are the most likely to win a beauty pageant, and I keep disagreeing with select takes pretty much every time. So I thought, why not make my own list? Rating the bosses in Dark Souls 3 entirely based on how much I like them. Coming in at number 25 to the surprise of absolutely nobody, the Ancient Wyvern. I mean, what can I even say about the Ancient Wyvern that hasn't already been said? I think it's something along the lines of it being the best boss in the entire series. I'd be wrong, but I'd be the first. Jokes aside, the problem with the boss is that it's not a real boss. You just run around in a circle, and I don't really have more to say about the boss, sadly. At 24 is the Curse-rotted Greatwood. Despite not being the objectively worst boss in the game, or the second worst boss in the game for that matter, like, it's just a forgettable boss fight, and I just hate that. I know it's a little bit shallow, but I'd rather have the boss be terrible and let me remember the boss fight than for the boss to be just forgettable. That's all there is about this boss. Like, it's nothing special in the slightest. Number 23 holds a special place in my heart for ending way more deathless runs than I would like to admit. Now, Wolnir looks awesome. He looks intimidating. He looks badass, and he's just not. Most of the time, you're going to walk into his boss arena, 3-tap his bracelets, and wonder why they put a health bar connected to a Skyrim puzzle. And then sometimes he just refuses to cooperate, hides the bling away, and calls the police on your ass. He gets bonus points for having a sword most players would never see him use. And all in all, he would be so forgettable if he wasn't just so underwhelming. And at number 22, we're sticking with the theme of, wait, that's it? Because at number 22 we have Vordt of the Boreal Valley. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't hate Vordt. In fact, I like Vordt. He is a really, really cool boss fight, and he would have a much higher place on this list if they tripled his health bar. Yeah, no, I'm not joking. That isn't yeah, the problem, right, is that you get him into phase 2, no problem, and then the fight is just over. Like, I can't justify putting him higher on the list when the entire boss fight is done in less than 2 minutes. Like, I'm struggling to read the script because I'm like trying to praise Vordt here for being really cool, and I can't. This sucks. The script is ass. Who wrote this? Just give Vordt more health, please. He would be a cool boss fight if he had more health. But no, he gets number 22 because he's done so fast that I'm not even sure if he's a boss. Number 21. Like I had this whole joke written. I have it in the script. I can show you later. But it's Champion's Gravetender. I don't like this boss. This boss is ass. Honestly, this boss is worse than several of the bosses we've discussed before. The thing is, Ancient Wyvern just doesn't even get to count, and Vordt and Wolnir's ass. So we have Champion's Gravetender here. You kill a dog. You kill 3 dogs, and you kill the Champion's Gravetender, and then you're left fighting Sith 3.0, and like, I don't understand why they put the boss here. It feels so unnecessary. It feels like they made the lower part of the painting and they just went, oh, we need a boss here, and it just doesn't feel like a good boss. Like, I don't like it. It feels heartless and it feels so mid. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. So you remember 21? Oh, I didn't like it because it just kind of felt mid and bad, and Like, it's just a normal NPC fight. Yeah, half a fight, Halflight. Such a cool, such an awesome gimmick, honestly, when you're fighting, like, for real. It feels really, really cool to fight Halflight. And by Halflight, I mean actual players. But fighting actual players isn't a universal experience, so if you're playing offline, or the game just doesn't find anything for you, you get Halflight and 2 Painting Guardians, and Painting Guardians are horrible. They're so annoying to deal with, and Halflight just kinda... Well, he's Halflight. Yeah, and I have a feeling I don't really like NPC fights as much. Thankfully, this is, it's only really those 2 that are NPC fights, so that's... Yeah. No, that's it. I don't like Halflight. I don't like them. I got surprised. Like, I legitimately got surprised when Deacons made it all the way to 19. But here we are. And like, my problem with the Deacons is it's just not a good boss fight, right? Let's be honest with each other here. It's not a good boss fight. It's just so done so quick, right? It's the fucking Wolnir thing all over again. It's a Skyrim puzzle. Oh, that's it. And then that's all of it, you know. And it feels like it was made Bethesda, and not in a good way. And like, the boss is just kind of a fucking joke, you know. And speaking of jokes, at number 18, we have Yhorm. God, this fight is a letdown. So they used Yhorm to promote the game. They hyped him up in the opening cinematic. And he goes down in 5 hits. He has no real hurt boxes other than his machete. Which, by the way, is so easy to avoid. And even if you were to fight him without the Storm Ruler, you'll literally only have to deal with weapon durability as your only threat. Because the boss just... Dude, Yhorm's a joke. He goes down way too fast with the Storm Ruler, and he doesn't go down fast enough without it. And even fighting Yhorm normally, he just kind of falls over. Like, he can't even fucking touch you. This is a Lord of Cinder, really? Yeah. At 17th, we have the Crystal Sage. I don't, like, hate the Crystal Sage. It's okay, I guess. She can be a bit annoying if you don't really understand how her teleporting works. And, like, I don't understand how her teleporting works, but you kind of just get, like, a feel for when she'll reappear, or where she'll reappear. And, like, she's fun, but she could be so much better. But also, it's not, like, super disappointing, because she's not a major boss, and it's just not a great boss fight. And it's just not a bad boss fight either. And it's 17th place, because, like, we're already past all the bad boss fights. Hell, I'd argue Yhorm is not even a bad boss fight, he's just underwhelming. But, like, yeah, it's not a great boss fight, not a bad boss fight. It's fun, it's fine, it's whatever, middle of the pack, it's not great. I feel like it's kind of sad that the second Lord of Cinder is as low as 16, but I don't like Aldritch. He's basically just a Crystal Sage, but more annoying, but also slightly more enjoyable. I don't know how to explain it. Better design, I think. I think he just looks cooler than the Crystal Sage, and that's why I like him more. Like, neither of these bosses are particularly great. And I mean, Aldritch isn't great. Okay, I don't like Aldritch that much. I don't hate him. Run in, he's substantially easier than you'd think, and he's it's fine. He's whatever. I won't call him a bad boss fight. I won't call him a good boss fight. I'll call him a completely a-okay boss fight. And yeah, no, that's it. Okay, boss fight. Now, my original thought for this entire segment was to do the list. I don't know what the video is called even, but I'm sure I could find it.
Number 15, Burger King foot lettuce.
Just do the entire number 15 entry from that video, but have all of it be read in Oceiros' voice through a TTS. I think that would have been really cool. Now, sadly, I don't like Oceiros enough to be willing to pay for an AI to do that for me. And also, like, honestly, do I really care? Like, do I? Instead, what you're getting for the number 15th entry is me explaining what the joke would have been, and I'm not going to mention anything about the boss. Next up is number 14. Bye-bye. I like the old Demon King. He's not good. He's kind of a joke. He kind of sucks, you know, but I like him. Which is, you know, it's weird. The boss is not good. Like, he kind of sucks. He's kind of a joke. He just kind of fumbles around and he sucks. But like, honestly, I like the boss fight. I like him. He gets 14th place because this is a very biased list, and I'm okay with that. At the very middle of the list, we have the Soul of Cinder. And you know, shout out to Dark Souls 3 for not having the final boss in the game be complete ass. Okay? Because Nashandra sucked. Nashandra was so fucking bad. Aldia sucked. Aldia was so fucking bad. Gwyn, I don't think I need to say anything. If you've actually, you know, fought Gwyn, he's not a good boss fight. He just kind of sucks. And you know, Moon Presence is way too easy to be a final boss. Gehrman's cool. Shout out to Gehrman. Wet Nurse as well as like the boss shouldn't have been. Wet Nurse feels like it should have been earlier. And Elden Beast is ass. Radagon's fucking awesome, but Elden Beast is ass. Like shout out to Dark Souls 3 for having the final boss just not sucking, you know? Like, it's a good fight. It has one of the most banger themes in the entire series. And like, it just feels good. You know, it just feels good to fight the Soul of Cinder. And like, you know, it's more than can be said for the other Souls games, where the final boss is just like the worst part of the fucking game. Except for Dark Souls 1, because you have, you know, Izalith. I could spend way too much time talking shit about Dark Souls 1. I like Dark Souls 1, by the way. It's just... Soul of Cinder is number 13. Okay? I like the boss. Good job, FromSoft. Number 12 is Dragonslayer Armour. This is just a cool fight. It's complicated. Like, it's a lot more complex than you'd originally think. It's, like, really cool to dodge. It's really fun, and it's a good challenge before you reach the final zone, and it's just an overall really cool boss fight. And he tries to knock you off the bridge successfully way too many times. And I like this boss fight. Again, he's fucking Turtle King. He's Turtle King, and I love Turtle King. And, you know, sure, he's not the hardest boss in the game. He's not the easiest boss in the game, but, like, he's there. He's cool. Okay, I like him. And he spanks you a little, okay, and then he sends you home. Or you kill him, and, you know, you get to go into Grand Archives. Now you're having a good time. Arguably. Yeah, I like Dragonslayer Armour. It's a really cool boss fight, and it's just a good boss fight for like where it is. It's probably the best placed boss fight in the game, like challenge wise compared to next area. Like, yeah, I like Dragonslayer Armour. Dragonslayer Armour is cool. He gets to stay. We're at 11th place, and I still haven't actually gone into that much detail on like half the bosses I've covered. I'm gonna be okay with that. But at 11th place is the Twin Demons. This is one of the fan favorites. This is one that a lot of people really, really like. And I mean, I agree. I fucking love this fight. It's amazing. But, dude, I wish Phase 1 was longer. And I wish Phase 1 was a little bit more complicated. Like, keeping track of both demons isn't actually all that hard. And Phase 2 is actually really cool. I love Phase 2. And it's a good fight. I mean, it feels stressful in the way that you want a Souls game to feel stressful. It's a very challenging boss fight, and that's one thing I really like about it. It's just the raw, pure challenge that comes with it. And it's just as challenging every time. That's again something I find really cool. I like the boss fight. I think it's an absolutely amazing boss fight. And I think that FromSoft really outdid themselves when it came to spectacle. Like, the first time I saw it, I was just taken aback by how fucking good it looked to fight that fight and how good it felt to fight that fight. And I mean, now as I've played more, it's like, yeah, the boss isn't actually as complicated as you first imagine it is. Overall, it's actually a surprisingly easy boss fight. Like, once you calm down, if you're not overwhelmed, like if you're not completely overwhelmed by the stress of, oh god, there are 2 giant demons fighting me, if you manage to just put that aside, the boss becomes surprisingly simple and surprisingly easy, but I still really, really like it. And I mean, a big part of that is that even though it's not as challenging as first imagine, and it's also not as stressful, I guess, as you would first imagine. Like, just there is something about it. Like, even though it's not that, like, the execution that you need isn't as mechanically demanding as you first originally think, but it is an endurance fight. It takes time, and you can't sit there and make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. So you need to actually play decently the entire fight. And that's something I find really cool, because it's a good fight, and like, it does pose a real threat, and it's a good fight. Okay, I like the fight, and that's why it gets 11th place, because there are 10 bosses I think are better. We're finally at the top 10, and the 10th slot goes to the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. Now, the Dancer used to be one of my favorite boss fights. Like, yeah, I used to love it, but like, it's well, I mean, I still do love it, but like, I like it less than I used to, and I like other bosses more than I used to. Dancer is such a good boss fight. Describing it is difficult, but in phase 1, it feels like a precise dance between you and the Dancer, between like this beautiful, elegant dance between the two of you, and then phase 2 is just chaos, it's aggression, it's assertive, and it's just, as an art piece, it's such a good fight. And I think a big part of why I started liking it less is because I tend to fight the Dancer relatively early when I do my runs, right? So I know the Dancer. It's not like a super difficult boss fight to me anymore. And like, yeah, it's a good boss fight. I love it. But there are boss fights I find better. Even bosses that I find easier. But I like this boss fight. It's a good boss fight. 9th place is Iudex Gundyr. And this is the tutorial boss in the game, right? This is literally the tutorial of the game. He's so easy. But like, I love him. He's 9th place because he's just such a good introduction to Dark Souls, and he's such a good introduction to the type of games you're going to be playing. Like, if you start playing Souls-likes, and it's just, he sets the stage and he sets the mood so well. And honestly, he's just the single best tutorial in pretty much any game. And that feels really weird to say, but I mean it. I think that Gundyr is by far one of the highest quality bosses that FromSoft has delivered, precisely because of where or how early you fight him. Because he goes down super fast, right? He's inarguably super easy. Like, he is not a difficult boss fight. But I think that's kind of like the whole point. He's not supposed to be difficult. He's supposed to be teaching you that the game isn't going to just be pulling its punches. Because even though, yes, it's an easy fight, the game isn't pulling its punches. It's expecting you to know what you're doing to beat him. And, I mean, that's just something I really like about Gundyr. I think Gundyr is an absolutely amazing fight. And I think he gets to be on 9th place just for being the best tutorial in well, pretty much any game I've ever played, not just a Souls game. And yeah, kudos to FromSoft for making such a good boss and placing him, or well, designing a boss to be this good of a tutorial. At 8th place is the Abyss Watchers. I love the Abyss Watchers. I think the walk up to the Abyss Watchers is just, it's just chef's kiss, you know? It's so good. Like, it's a good ass challenge for new players. It's such a fun fight on higher NG cycles. There is nothing about this boss I think is particularly bad. Like, the one-on-one is really good. Okay, just the moveset that the Abyss Watchers has is really fun and enjoyable to dodge. It's a good fight. And then the second one rises. And it is kind of scary. It gets kind of stressful. And then the third one gets up. And it's just so fun to see this pseudo free-for-all, right? Because the two Abyss Watchers, like the first ones to rise, they're aggro to you. The third one, so the Red-Eyed Watcher, is aggroed specifically to whichever is closest when it starts to get up. That's who it aggroes to. And it is considered neutral, so it can aggro to any of the Watchers or to you. And it's such a well-executed gimmick. It's so fun and it's so cool. And like, yeah, technically you could just let the Red-Eyed Abyss Watcher take care of the entirety of Phase 1. That is absolutely something you can do. But then you're still going to be put into Phase 2, which is pretty much the same fight, except now you're in a 1v1, and the boss has lingering hitboxes. That's pretty much it. But that is all it needs. It's such a good executed boss fight. It's so well-rounded as well. I love the Abyss Watchers, and I think it's an absolutely amazing fight, and it's such a well-executed gimmick. And particularly because the gimmick doesn't actually make the fight any more or less by itself. Well, I mean, it does, but it doesn't rely on the gimmick. It's a good fight, and the gimmick just makes it better. And that's what I really like about it. That's what a gimmick fight is supposed to be. You know? Good job, FromSoft. I love this boss fight so much. Okay, listen. If quality was purely about presentation, Midir would get 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th place in a list about the best weapons in Bloodborne. Okay? Like, nothing presents as well as Midir. He gets 7th place. Like, yeah, the presentation can be enough to just bump you up a bunch of spots, because, like, he might be one of the best dragon fights ever made, but he's still a dragon fight. The camera's clunky, he's annoying to hit, and like, he's like, it's just, I'm having struggle speaking here. Like, I like Midir, I really love Midir, he's a really fun fight, but like, he's not actually that amazing, even though he is. He's the best presented. I've already said that. I've gushed about how fucking awesome he looks, how awesome his face transition looks. I love Midir. I love Midir. But, like, I still get a little bit disappointed every time I have to fight Midir, because it's just Midir. Like, yeah, it's just Midir. He's a dragon, and you booping him on the nose, and he eventually just dies. I wish he hit a little bit harder, and I wish he was a little bit more aggressive. And I also wish that he, you know, didn't help you out as much. I think the fight itself would benefit a lot from you not having to run him down all the time, but then also when you're there, maybe not just give you the weak spot. Because that's the problem with Midir. You need to run him down all the time, and then when you finally catch up to him, you just get free pot shots at his face. Yeah, that's it. Overall, though, I think Midir is a good fight. He, as I said, he is probably the best dragon fight, or at least up there as one of the best dragon fights in video game history. Still doesn't mean I absolutely adore the fight or anything, but like, he gets 7th place, right? That's not bad. With how much I gushed over Abyss Watchers, you know, it's a something, right? But yeah, Midir's Midir, and 7th place I feel is very fitting for him. I'm placing Pontiff at 6th place. I really like this fight. I mean, the parry timings feel really awesome. Dodging his moves feels really cool. Like, the aggression, I like him. I like him a lot. He's so cool. I like Pontiff. I don't know why I like him so much, but I know that I love him. Like, everything about him, I guess. He looks really cool. I mean, yeah, he doesn't look like Midir, but who looks like Midir, right? Or at least he doesn't look as good as Midir, but again, that's difficult to do. And sure, his attacks aren't like perfect, but like, yeah, no, he's a fun fight. He's a fun fight. That's pretty much all I can say about him. Yeah, he's really fun. Parrying him feels amazing. Fighting him feels amazing. Dodging feels amazing. And there are a few bosses that feel as good to just walk into and just establish dominance over by parrying and making him sit on the floor. He's a good fight. Overall, I think he's one of the best, and honestly, one of the most underrated bosses in all RPGs, I think. At least the Soul series. It's definitely one of the most underrated bosses in the series. Because I feel like people just find him kind of mid when he is so much fun. At least I find him a lot of fun. That's pretty much all I have to say about him. He gets 6th place because I just think he's really, really fun. Oh, Nameless King, my beloved. 5th place should have been an insult. From having the best fight in the entirety of the base game. From having one of the most amazing fights. It's such a pain to have to leave the Nameless King on 5th place. And not because all the other bosses are better, but because like the fight against Nameless King, phase 2 Nameless King is so fucking good, right? That is the closest thing to the perfect one-on-one. Like, you know, the perfect relatively evenly matched one-on-one, right? From just the coolest looking moves to just the most satisfying dodge timers, and you can sneak in those one hits, and it's just such a cool fight, and it's so well thought out. And then he has this phase 1 that is just a rat bastard of a fucking dragon that just will not cooperate with you, and it goes down way too easy, but it's still annoying and bothersome and tedious, and it would have been like Nameless King would have been so much better if he just didn't have the King of the Storm. And I think that's unfair, because I think that the King of the Storm is a really good part about the boss fight, and it adds a lot to it, but it still drags the boss fight down, you know? It's really difficult to explain, because the boss should be better than it is, but removing the bad part would make the boss worse overall, and I think that's really... I don't know how else to explain it. I don't like... I really don't like fucking King of the Storm. I think King of the Storm is just... I think it's a tedious task to go through, and then you have the Nameless King, which is just the best fair fight. Like, you're on equal footing here. And yeah, it's overall, I think, yeah, the Nameless King, he deserves 5th place. But if the King of the Storm was better, then I could easily see him be 2nd place, right? Like, he would have been 2nd, like, he would have been 2nd on the list, and it wouldn't even have been close if not for how meh I find King of the Storm to be. At 4th place, we have Gundyr again. I love Champion Gundyr. Like, he just tells you that learn to parry, you're gonna get your fucking skull caved in. He really is the champ, isn't he? We joke about too many dudes in armor fights in like our Souls games, but like, they just keep being the best, so I don't see why we're, you know, making fun of the game for it. Because like, those fights are just really good. Like, Looking Glass Knight, Artorias, I mean, I guess the closest thing in Bloodborne is Orphan or Maria, but like, they're good fights, even though they're just big dudes in armor, or, you know, attire, or in the, you know, Orphan that's plus, you know, I like the champ. Okay, he's cool. He's fun. He tells you to learn how to parry, or else you're gonna get fucked. And yeah, no, and he just feels like a good gladiator fight. Easily an S-tier fight, and you know, he's close to being at the same level as Nameless King's Phase 2, but since he's pretty much just that, and it fits that he is just that, he kind of gets a little bit higher. I think he's just one of the best bosses in the game, right? He gets 4th place, and he deserves 4th place. Honestly, I think this is going to be my most controversial opinion about this game. Because at 3rd place, I'm placing Gael. Like, Gael is generally seen as the best boss in the game, and honestly, I just disagree. Don't get me wrong, he's an absolutely amazing fight. And he feels really good, and he's the perfect ending to the entire series. And, like, no, I get why everybody loves him. Like, don't get me wrong here. I understand why everybody loves him. But he's fucking Gael, okay? He's probably the easiest, like, end of DLC boss fight, at least comparatively. Because even though, yeah, he's harder than Artorias. Manus, I guess. Like, he is harder than Manus, yes. But Dark Souls 1 is also a much easier game than Dark Souls 3. Manus is the hardest boss in the game. Whereas Gael is not. Old Ivory King is the hardest boss in Dark Souls 2. Even though he's an easier boss fight than Gael. Right, and I think that has a lot to do with it, with the I want the final challenge to be the hardest boss in the game. But he's not. And I guess I'm just gonna have to deal with that. Another thing is, of course, just the fact that, like, Gael is very, very predictable. And overall, like, he's cool, he's awesome, he's fun, and I really love this fight. Like, he's getting 3rd place. I'm sitting here talking shit about him, but I'm mostly just nitpicking, right? Every complaint I have are nitpicks there. I love Gael. The fight feels amazing. It feels good. It feels like I'm duking it out with the man who ate the world. But overall, I don't find him to be the best boss in the game. I don't find him to be the 2nd best boss in the game. I find him to be the 3rd best boss in the game. And I will stand by this. Gael, to me, is too easy to be the best boss in Dark Souls 3. Big part due to where he is placed That is not to say that he is a bad fight or that he is an easy fight by itself. I just wish he was slightly more aggressive, right? I'm honestly kind of annoyed at the fact that I have too much breathing room when I'm fighting Gael, right? It's so easy to space Gael, and I mean that's really my only issue with Gael. It's just the fact that he gives you too much breathing room. He's not aggressive enough, and it's easy to space him. So he makes for a very forgiving boss, even though he's at the very end of the game. And I just wish he wasn't as forgiving. And yeah, third best boss in the game is still really good. Like, he is amazing. And I have defended my opinion for long enough. Let's move on. You know, at second place, I placed the Twin Princes. I didn't used to just love this fight as much as I do. In fact, before recently, I think this boss would have been like at the bottom of top 10. Like, it's still a good fight. And I think Gael would have been second place. And basically, I think he would have maybe made like 8th place, I think, under Abyss Watchers. But ever since my Deathless run, and maybe a little bit before then as well, I just started loving this boss fight so much more. And it's a fun boss fight. I love this boss fight. And I don't know why. I don't understand why. Something just clicked, I guess. It made this boss just feel fun. Because it's a sense of fun that I haven't had in this boss before. But the way that Lorien teleports, the way that Lorien's attacks come out, they feel really good. And it feels really good to be dodging them. It feels really good to be fighting Twin Princess. I know I have in the past said that I don't actually love this fight. I don't think that's up on YouTube, but like, I have said in the past that I don't love this fight. And now I'm placing it in second place, right? This is such a good fight. And I can't even explain why. Like, I have the same complaints about this boss as I would Gael. Actually, no, because they're harder to space. I guess they're just better at being like putting pressure on you. Like, even though yeah, they're an overall easier fight than Gael, they still put more pressure on you and more consistent pressure on you, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. It's a good fight. I like the pressure I'm under when I'm fighting them, and I really like the two faces, both of them individually. And I like the whole resurrection gimmick that Lorien, or well, that Lothric has. I think Twin Princess is a really good fight, and I think the arena is really pretty. And yeah, no, I think it's a good fight. Thank you for listening. And by process of elimination, you've probably already figured out that Sister Friede is my favorite boss. Not only is she my favorite boss, she's not just my favorite boss in Dark Souls 3. She's my second favorite boss ever. And up until recently, she was actually my favorite boss in anything. Like, I love Friede. I love the length. I love the pressure I'm under. I love the fact that I just need to be fighting it. I mean, another thing is just, this is the most difficult boss in the game. It's not close. This is the most difficult boss fight in the game, at least to me. And like, something about this fight that just hits me in a way that practically no other bosses do. Like, the music is good, the emotional just weight of the boss is good, and then you have the actual mechanics of fighting it. And phase 1 is slow, but it's like drawn out, and it's good. It's really good, but it's slow. It's drawn out. It's extended, and you have phase 2. And phase 2 is this double boss fight that is really, really, really fun and really strong. And it's just, I really like it. I love it. I love phase 2 so much, even though it's easily the worst part of the boss. And then you get into phase 3, and phase 3 is such a spectacle. And unlike Midir, right, who looks awesome, and then fighting him is kind of like, yeah, I expected more. Friede is, this looks awesome, and it feels even better to fight. The phase 3 Friede is so good, and it's made better by phase 1 and 2. It's such a good endurance fight, and it's such a fun endurance fight. I just... Sister Friede and Father Ariandel and Black Flame Friede are all amazing boss fights. And even though none of them by themselves, like none of the phases by themselves, would fit into... Because these fights are actually split up, like properly split up. Well, relatively at least. I don't think any of the 3 phases would get this high on the list, but the way they're put together is just... It's just beautiful in its own way, and I adore it. And I think that FromSoft really outdid themselves when they made Friede. And what's funny is that even though she is my second favorite boss in anything ever, my favorite boss is also a FromSoft boss. But it's not from Dark Souls 3. And I mean, maybe I'll talk about it some other time, but not today. I'm here gushing about Friede. She is so close to perfect that it almost annoys me. That boss fight is so fucking good. And I think it's easily the best one in the game. And yeah. And with that, my list is over. That's all there is. So, yeah. Let me know what you think. Yeah, let me know where you disagree. I know we're bound to disagree on what bosses we find to be the best and what bosses we find to be the worst, so, you know, I would love to hear it. Hell, if you think Friede is the worst boss fight in the game, I would love to hear exactly why. Because it'd be a nice conversation to have. It's what you hate about it, I might love about it, and that's something that is really cool about the fights in FromSoft games. I've always felt that way. Anyway, you know, my name's been Ratrit. Thank you for watching my video, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.